Hello guys, and welcome back to another sewing tutorial. If you missed the last video where we drafted the pattern for this palazzo pants, I'll have it linked in the description box below so you can go check it out. But on this video we're going to learn how to sew our palazzo pants, how to fix our zipper fly and our waistband as well. If that sounds like something you're interested in, keep on watching and let us get right into the video. So these are all the fabric pieces. We're going ahead to overlock them. Now we're going to start by fixing the pocket. So I'm going to set the other ones aside and work on the front piece. So this is the front piece. This is the part where we're going to have the the pocket. So we're going to place them right sides facing each other. You can see that I went ahead to mark the wrong sides of the fabric so you do not get confused, especially if this is your first time making a pants with a pocket. So we're going to place them right sides facing each other, and then we're going to take this to the machine to sew along that part. So you see, when you're going to sew, you have something like this, the way we drafted out on the paper. I hope you understand. So we place them right sides facing each other and we're sewing along this part. So I'm going to sew this and come back to show you. After attaching the pocket to the main fabric piece, this is what we have. You can see that I went ahead to iron this down a bit, and the wrong sides are both on the same side. Now we're going to top stitch on the pocket side of our fabric. We're just going to run a top stitch so that part stays in place. After running a stitch on the pocket side of the fabric, this is what we have. Now we're going to flip this down. You can see that I went ahead to mark my 1.5 inch at that point. That is the point where we went ahead to cut out the excess at the pocket area. So you can see that I'm placing it back, and our measurement now is going to be as it was on the pattern. Now we're going to sew the pocket, and to do this you want to hold this bottom part here. The way you see me doing, you're holding the pocket, you're not holding the main fabric piece but the pocket. And I created a notch at that point first of all, and now after creating the notch, we're going to flip this over to the other side, and then we're going to flip the pocket. This is the wrong side, you can see the X there. We're going to flip this over to the right side, and then we're going to sew this from that point where we created the notch. We're going to sew it in and then curve it out. I'm just using my chalk just so you see this clearly on how we're going to sew this. So you're going to curve it in like this. So we're going to go ahead to sew this and come back to flip this over. After sewing, this is what we have. You can see that I stitched this from this part here and then we curved it downwards. Now I'm going to go ahead to trim off the excess fabric we have at that bottom. After trimming off the excess, we're going to flip the pocket over to the right side. After flipping this over, this is what we have. You can see that at this point we went inwards a bit by half an inch, and that is why we have that shape there. So you want to make sure your pocket is looking like that after sewing. Now we're going to stitch on the sides of the pocket here just so it stays in place. So I'm going to take this to the machine to sew. So guys, after stitching down on our pockets, this is what we have. You can see how laid down it looks. I went ahead to give this a good press. So this is what we have. I went ahead to press this down very well. And now what we're going to do next is we're going to hold this part here. We're going to hold it to the pocket and we're going to pin this down to sew. So I'm just going to pin it down and we're going to sew our pockets down to the main fabric piece. And we're doing this for the other pocket as well. After sewing, this is what the both front piece looks like. We've gone ahead to fix the pocket as well as stitch them down to the main fabric piece. Now what we're going to do is we're going to lay this down right sides facing each other, and then I'm going to bring my tape and mark 7 inch for our zipper fly. I'm going to mark 7 inch, and then after marking out that 7 inch, I'm going to go ahead to create a notch at that 7 inch point there. After creating the notch, we're going to sew from this point here all the way down by 1/2 inch. So I'm going to sew that and come back to show you how to add in your zipper fly. So guys, for the front piece, this is what we have after stitching this down. Now we're going to fix the zipper to this point with our zipper fly, and this is the zipper I'm going to work with. This is basically the only matching color I could find at the time, but you want to make sure when you're doing this, you're working with your normal short zip, the normal one they normally call skirt zip, and the rest. So that's the shorter one is the one you're supposed to use. Now I'm going to bring in the zipper fly part, which is this piece here, and now we're going to fold it. You can see how I'm folding this. Now we're going to place this on top of our zipper. So our zipper is going to be in between the main fabric piece and the zipper fly, and now we're going to stitch this together. So you can see the way I'm holding this. You're going to hold the 3 pieces together. Make sure it's the woven part of the zipper fly that is facing the part where you're supposed to sew on. And now we're going to place this down and sew this together. So as you're sewing this, you want to make sure you sew it all the way and stop at that 7-inch mark we made. So the part where we had that notch, that is where you're going to stop. So after sewing that part, this is what we have so far. This is what this part is looking like. Now we're going to bring in the second piece, and then we're going to attach it to the opposite side as well. So you want to hold this part together with the zipper fly piece, and then you want to stitch this down. After stitching that part down, this is what we have. I'm going to go ahead to give this a good press just so everything lays properly. So guys, this is what the front piece is looking like after we went ahead to give it a good press. Everything is laying properly. Now we're going to sew the other side of our zipper to the zipper fly. I'm just going to go ahead to open up the zipper. Now we're going to flip this over so we can sew this. After flipping this over, I'm going to lay my zipper on the zipper fly, and you want to make sure you're laying the zipper in the middle part of your zipper fly to stitch this down. You're not going to stitch this adding your fabric or anything. You're just going to add your zipper fly alone, and you're going to stitch this at the side of the zipper. After sewing, this is what we have. So when you're done sewing the zipper to the other side of the zipper fly, you should have something like this. Next, we're going to finish this up. We're going to stitch down the zipper fly on the front part here. So I'm going to lay this down, and then I'm going to bring in my tape and mark 1 inch at that point there as a guide to stitch that part down. So I'm placing my tape down at the top part here, and I'm going to just use that as a guide to know where the 1 inch is going to sit, and then we're going to start sewing this. So you're basically sewing on your front main fabric piece as well as the zipper fly, but this doesn't affect your main zipper. So now we're going to stitch this following that 1 inch, and then when we get to that 7-inch mark we had at that bottom part where we started from, we're going to curve that part in. So you're going to see this while I sew. After sewing that down, this is what we have. You want to make sure you have something like this when you're done sewing. So I won't be cutting out the zip simply because it's too long. If we were working with a shorter one, that would be fine, but I do not want to make any mistakes, so I won't be cutting out the zip till I'm adding my waistband. So I thought to let you know, if you're working with a regular trouser zip, you will not have this issue. So guys, this is what we have. I also gave it a good press at that area just so it lays well. Now on this inner part, we want to stitch this part down to the zipper area. So we're just going to stitch it at that front part where we have the curve, making sure the inner part is laying well. So now we're just going to top stitch, so we're sewing on the two zipper fly as well as the zip, so that place stays in place. So this is all you have to do. Now I'm bringing in my back piece, and we're going to join the front and the back piece together, right sides facing each other. So I'm laying down the back piece on the front piece, like I said, right sides facing each other, and we're going to join the sides, the hip area. We're going to close it up by 1/2 inch. After doing this, I'm going to do the opposite side off camera, and we're going to come back to close up the back. After joining the sides, as you can see, I went ahead to give it a good press just so everything lays nicely. You can see that I opened the seams and I gave it a good press. Now we're going to close up the back of our pants. So to do this, we're going to go ahead to fold this to the wrong side. So you can see the way I'm folding this right now. Everything is now on the wrong side, and now I'm going to lay everything in place properly and bring in my tape. So I'm going to bring in my tape and mark my waist measurement divided by 2. So my waist measurement divided by 2 is 15 inches. I'm going to mark 15.5 inches. Sorry, my waist measurement divided by 2 is 15.5 inches, and I'm going to mark that out. After marking that out, I went again just to make sure the waist measurement I took out is correct, and then we're going to curve this all the way to our crotch area. So after marking this out, we're going to follow the lines we have there, and we're going to take this to the machine to sew. So after closing up the back, this is what we have. You can see that I pressed down the seams as well. After doing that, now we're going to move on to join the sides, the inner sides of the pants. So I'm just flipping this over so we can hold the joinings at the bottom together. You want to make sure the joinings are meeting each other, and now we're going to pin this across. You want to make sure you're pinning this down, so when you're sewing this, you don't have a situation where you have one part being longer than the other at the bottom. You want to pin this all the way, so when you sew, everything is equal. So I'm going to go ahead to finish up pinning this, and we're going to take this to the machine to sew by 1/2 inch. So guys, after sewing the inner sides of the pants, this is what we have. I went ahead to iron everything very well, and one thing you should do when ironing, after opening up the seams to iron, you want to make sure you also turn it to the right side to iron as well. So I went ahead to iron everything down, and now at the bottom part we're going to fold in that 1 inch we took out for the folding allowance. We're going to fold it in, and then we're going to iron this down. You can choose to stitch yours down, or you can use hemming gum. I'm going to make use of hemming gum, so I'm just marking out the 1 inch, taking note of that, and I'm going to iron that down. After ironing this down, I'm going to go in again with my hemming gum and then iron it again. So guys, we're going to draft our waistband, and for that I'm going to open up the zipper for the pants, and then we're going to hold this equally. After holding this equally, you want to pin this down, pin everything down in place to make sure you get your accurate measurements. So after pinning this down, I'm going to take note of what I have. Now I'm taking note of the measurement I have at the waist area. You can see that we're also taking note of the zipper fly allowance we have there. So you want to make sure you pin this well so you get the right measurement. After taking the measurement, what I have there was 15.75. So I'm going to use that to draft the waistband. Now you can see that I ruled out a straight line on our pattern paper. On that line I'm going to mark 15.75, which is the measurement we took along the waist area. After marking that, we're going to come up from that line by 1.5 inches on both sides. After marking 1.5 inches on this part, we're going to come up again by another 1.5 inches, and then we're going to rule a straight line on the both sides. Now we're going to divide the 15.75 inches we took. We're going to divide that into 2, and then we're going to mark the midpoint. After taking note of the midpoint, we're going to rule a straight line across that 1.5 inches mark we made. Now I'm also going to extend that mark we made at the midpoint. We're going to rule it all the way up, and then from that midpoint here I'm going to mark half an inch. After marking out half an inch, I'm going to rule a line. So far this is what we have. Next we're going to go ahead to rule a line from the line we made here. We're going to rule it to that half an inch we came out by. So we're ruling a straight line all the way to that point, and then from this 1.5 inch mark we're going to rule that all the way to that line as well. Now I'm going to take note of what I have at that point here, and we're going to divide that into 2 to mark out the midpoint. Now marking out the midpoint. Now from that mark we made, we're going to come down by 1/4 of an inch and mark that out. After marking that out, I'm also going to mark the midpoint for the top line as well, and then we're going to come down from the top line by 1/4 of an inch as well. Next, I'm going to use my curve to curve this back to that line we have there, just to create a curve for our waistband. Now we're no longer working with the straight line, so I'm going to cancel that out, and then we're also going to use the curve to curve out the top part as well. So we're no longer working with the straight line for the top part as well, and now our new line is going to be the curved line we just created. Now I'm taking note of what we have on our original waistline where we first marked, and what we have there is 8.5 inches, and I'm going to use that 8.5 inches to follow the curves we have at the bottom part of our first curved line, and we're going to mark 8.5 inches. After marking that out, you can see that we've gone ahead to transfer our 8.5 inches from our straight line to the curved line, which is how it's supposed to be. Now I'm going to use my ruler to rule this all the way to the top in a slanted motion. You're not making this straight but slanted. After marking out the slanted line, I'm going to take note of what we have at the top. So what we have at the top is also equivalent to what we need at the bottom as well. So I'm going to go ahead to cut this out. After cutting this out, this is what we have. Now we're going to use this to cut out our interfacing. So this is gum stay, and this is what we're going to use for the waistband. I'm just going to pin my pattern down, and we're going to trace it out because this is on fold. The pattern is on fold. We want to make sure we are cutting this as a full waistband and not joining it together. So I'm just tracing the pattern onto the interfacing. So this is what we have. Now I'm going to take out the pattern, and this is what it's looking like. Now I'm placing the pattern on the opposite side, as you can see, and I'm going to continue tracing this out as well. So this part we have here is the straight part. The curved part is going to be on the other side. So the part that is going to be on fold is the straight part. So please take note of that. I'm going to curve this the same way we did for the other part, and after curving this out, this is what we have. So this is going to be the full waistband, and now we're going to go ahead to cut this out. You can as well place this on fold and then just place your pattern and cut it out, but I want it to be precise, and that is why I did it this way. So this is our waistband. We're going to go ahead to iron this on our fabric. So I went ahead to iron the interfacing on the fabric. So this is what it's looking like. We're going to go ahead to cut this out, and you want to make sure you're leaving 1/2 inch at the top as well as 1/2 inch at the bottom. You're also going to leave 1/2 inch at the sides as well. So guys, after cutting this out, this is what we have, and you can see that we have two pieces of this. One is going to serve as the lining piece, while one is going to serve as the main fabric piece. Now we're going to stitch this along this line all the way to the other side. You want to make sure that you're leaving just this 1.5 inch interfacing spacing for your waistband. So after sewing, this is what we have. You can see that I also went ahead to trim off some of the excess we have at the top. Now we're going to open this up, and then we're going to top stitch on the lining part. So we're going to top stitch all the way to the other side on the lining part. So after top stitching on it, this is what we have. You can see that after top stitching, I also went ahead to give the waistband a very good press. Now I'm going to bring in my pants, and then we're going to trim off the excess zipper we have at the top. After trimming off the excess zipper, we're going to bring in the waistband, and we're simply going to pin the waistband to our pants, right sides facing each other. So we're going to start from this point, and then we're going to pin this all the way to the other side. After pinning this down, from that 1/2 inch part where we left out, we're going to start from that point, and we're going to stitch this by 1/2 inch all the way to the other side of our pants. So as you're sewing, you want to make sure the seams on your pants are open while you're sewing along this line. After sewing, this is what our waistband is looking like so far. Now we're going to come to the front part of the waistband, and we're going to flip that part over to the wrong side, and then we're going to fold in the 1/2 inch folding allowance we left out on the fabric, and then we're going to close up that part. So at this front part here, you want to flip this to the wrong side, and then you close it up, and then you're going to fold in the excess you have there in. So I'm going to take it again. So this is on the wrong side. We're going to flip this over, and after flipping this over, you can see that we have excess at that point. You're going to flip that excess in to the wrong side, and then you're going to stitch it down. If you have any further questions, please leave it in the comment section below, and I'll try my best to answer your questions. Now we're going to go ahead to trim off the excess we have there, and then we're going to flip this over to the right side. So this is what we have after flipping this over. You can see what the waistband is looking like. Now we're going to repeat the same process for the opposite side to seal up the edge. So guys, this is what our waistband is looking like so far. You can see how clean it is looking like. We're going to go ahead to do the finishing on the inner part. So on this part here, you can choose to use your bias tape to just seal it up, and then you're done. But I'm not going to use bias tape for this one. I'm going to flip the excess fabric in, and then we're going to stitch it down. So I'm going to bring in my pin, and we're going to pin this all the way around. So you can see that I went ahead to open this up, and I'm going to fold in the 1/2 inch excess we have there, and we're going to iron this in place. So I'm just going to go ahead to fold and iron this in place so everything is secured. After ironing, this is what we have. Now we want to pin this down so we can sew, and none of the seams we went ahead to iron is coming out while we iron. So I'm pinning this down all the way to the other side, and then we're going to take this to the machine to finish this up. Now to sew this, you're going to flip this over to the right side, and we're going to stitch this in between the joinings we have at the waistband area here. So you want to take your time with this while sewing, just so when you're sewing, you're not sewing randomly and you're actually stitching down on the correct side. When you're flipping this over to the wrong side, you're making sure that you're stitching this on the right side. So take your time with this process. You also want to make sure that your stitch line on the right side here is not visible, so you have a neat finish. So this is what we have after we're done stitching this all the way around. You want to go ahead to fix your button or your hook and eye at the front part, and we are done with this pants. If you enjoyed watching this video and you found it helpful, do not forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, and I will see you guys on the next video. Bye guys.